Okay, as you can see here, I've got my Dutch buckets actually up and running, and it's been a couple days and the plants haven't died, so that's good. But I wanted to walk through some of the details of the setup here because there's a lot of videos about these, but there were a couple things that I didn't see on any video, and I wanted to sort of share. So I'll give you the overview of what I've got going, and then a couple little nuances. First of all, I have these just on a couple cinder blocks. You know, the lower ones are on one cinder block, the upper ones are on two cinder blocks, and then a couple 2x4s along here. It's a different piece of wood, but it's the same thickness. An inch and a half of wood is really necessary because otherwise these will start to bend unless you have more 2x4s. So this stretch here is 10 buckets per stretch. It's a little less than 12 feet left to right, and I have just cinder blocks here, here, and here. So this span is like 5 feet. And if I didn't use 2x4s or a thicker wood, they had started to bend, or they would start to bend. That's a little bit of a tip. The second thing is most setups do suggest that you have two plants per bucket, one here and one here. I've done just one plant per bucket because I've tightly spaced the buckets themselves. I can't really explain my reasoning there other than just I'm starting out, I'm experimenting, etc. And in theory, I could say, oh, I can have two plants per bucket, but I need to, move the system or something like that. Maybe I'll move it into the middle of the floor here. Who knows? Second system. So there's that. But one of the big things that I never saw on any video was like how to get this pipe here at the right height. And I really worked for a little while to sort of puzzle that out. And I finally came up with a pretty good solution that I think will be helpful for people, because not only do you need to sort of hang it at the right height, there needs to be a fall. So this has to be high, and then has to go a little lower here, and then this has to be high relatively, and then a little lower here, and then into the reservoir. So the way that I did it is in 3 locations, 1, 2, 3 on each thing. So down here there's 1, 2, 3. I did this, right, which is I just attached a batten or a piece of wood here and some metal strap, and you can see, it's hard to see, but there's a screw holding the bottom part of the strap down, and then the strap goes down under the pipe and back up, and then a longer strap that goes back. So the fact that the top of the strap and the bottom of the strap are screwed down separately allows me to adjust the tension on this strap, thereby raising or lowering the pipe as needed. And these sort of half-inch increments that are standard, this is just Odie brand strapping. You can get it really anywhere. That allowed me to really hold this really quite tight, but also adjust things. You can see that the batten itself is actually right in line with the edge of the pipe. So this is pulling the pipe against the batten, and the batten happens to sort of line up. Let's see if I can get a better shot here. Happens to sort of line up with these fittings, though. That's sort of a guess. I was using that as a reference. Anyway, this is working really well. It's very solid. It's not going anywhere, and it allows it to be adjustable. And then with that very solid piece in place, I was able to actually zip tie the actual distribution hoses to it. So that was a nice side benefit there. So there's that. And of course, I have the 2 sets of pipes connected. None of this piping is glued. So am I getting some leaks? Yeah, I'm getting a drop or 2 here or there, but nothing really major. And I could go back and fix those loose connections to save that energy, or to save that water. On the distribution lines themselves, I have valves at the very beginning. These are actually running separately into my reservoir here. So I have 2 separate lines and 2 separate pumps. But my next step is actually to try to combine them and just run 1 pump for all 20 tanks, which may be overly ambitious, but we'll see. Each one of these, it's a small section splitter and then another splitter, and this evens out the flow for everything. So I don't get more flow at the start and less flow later on. One thing to note is I actually bought these buckets from this place, Complete Growing. And I really like their sort of package. They have great videos about all sorts of hydroponics, and you can buy the whole package. They'll send you like the buckets, the hoses, the fittings, the pump, everything, even some plant food, all in one kit, which is super convenient. The only thing that I would caution against is that the hoses that they use are a little lighter, and they can actually sort of flatten out. You know, they can sort of kink and flatten out. So you have to make sure that you have them draped in a way that they won't flatten out. Whereas like this hose here, and you can see this one's sort of shiny. This is a nicer hose, and this is dull. This is the one from Complete Growing. This nicer hose I got from Crop King, and it's much more rigid. It stays like a tube the whole time, regardless of how you move it around. So that is an issue. If you use the sort of cheaper hose, it's fine. You just have to make sure that it's not getting kinked anywhere. Whereas with the nicer hose from like Crop King, that's not really a concern. So the two, one pipe goes into the reservoir here, and the two outlets, the two black pipes come out of the reservoir in terms of, pumping water. All of that is controlled by this timer. And you can see I have two pumps, one pump, two pump, and just a regular old Christmas tree timer. And I'm watering for about 30 minutes, 4 times a day. And I'm going to try that for a little while, see how that works. And that's about it. One last thing is, if you put you can see on here, there's like a little algae growing. That's actually from the original Rockwool cube when I was growing this plant indoors. But if you take your feed pipe and actually embed it into the white rocks rather than having it lay on top, that will reduce the amount of algae you get on top, as will, a lid. So there you go. That's the setup so far. It's looking pretty good. I think things are actually growing pretty well. I haven't been measuring, but these plants just sort of, to my eye, seem bigger than when I planted them. I think this cucumber is going to be my barometer of actual growth here. I'm getting lots of nice new small leaves, and this thing is sort of reaching out. I did put the cucumbers on the ends to try to get them to climb up and around. There's cucumbers down there too, whereas stuff in the middle is mostly tomatoes on the back, and shorter plants like eggplant, green peppers, etc. on the front. There's a couple tomatoes, but as they grow, we'll string the tomatoes up to the ceiling. The cucumbers will climb on the walls, and we'll see what happens. So that's it for today. What's next? NFT, and I'll do a little video about setting up the NFT. That's coming in the next couple weeks.